Emily sat by the window, her chin resting on her palm, watching the pale sunlight spill across the quiet street. The leaves outside had begun to turn, scattering shades of amber and gold across the sidewalks. But no matter how beautiful the day was, her heart felt heavy. It had been months since her world had felt truly lively, and a subtle loneliness pressed against her chest, one she hadn't shared with anyone. Her apartment was small but cozy, filled with warm colors and soft light, yet it had never felt quite like home. Emily had always been careful, protective, even of her own heart. She had been hurt before, quietly, in ways that left echoes of longing and cautious hope tangled together. Sometimes she wondered if she would ever feel that spark of connection again, the kind that made your chest race in a way that felt like possibility itself. The soft chime of her phone interrupted her thoughts. Emily startled, blinking at the screen. She wasn't expecting anyone, and the afternoon had been calm and solitary until now. Her heart skipped a little when she saw the name Claire. Claire, her mother's longtime friend. Someone Emily had always liked, a kind woman with a soft laugh and eyes that seemed to see the good in everything. But the way her name appeared on the screen now felt different, almost urgent. Emily pressed the answer button. "Hi, Emily," said Claire's voice, soft and slightly trembling. There was a hesitation in her tone, a pause that made Emily lean closer to the phone. I need your help." Emily frowned slightly. It wasn't unusual for Claire to ask favors, but there was something fragile in her voice, an emotion that wasn't typical. "Of course, Claire. What's going on?" she asked gently. There was a long pause. Emily could almost hear Claire taking a deep breath, gathering courage. "It's a bit unusual," Claire admitted. "I don't know if I should even ask, but I trust you." The words made Emily's heart flutter unexpectedly. She wasn't sure why, but something about hearing that trust, that quiet appeal, stirred a mixture of curiosity and concern. "Tell me," she urged softly. "I'll do my best." Claire's voice cracked slightly, and Emily felt a pang of empathy. "It's about something personal," Claire said, almost whispering. "Something I can't handle alone. And I was hoping maybe you could help me." Emily's mind raced with questions. What could it possibly be? A simple errand? A complicated task? Or perhaps something emotional, something that required care rather than strength? She felt a strange pull, a gentle tug at her heart, telling her that this moment was going to change her day, maybe even something more. "I'll come over," Emily said firmly, though inside her heart was a whirlwind of curiosity. "Where are you?" After giving directions, Claire hung up. Emily set down the phone and looked around her apartment, suddenly aware of how quiet it had been. The sun had shifted in the sky, and the room seemed smaller somehow. She grabbed her coat, her mind a mix of anticipation and nervousness, as she walked down the familiar streets toward Claire's townhouse. Emily's thoughts wandered. She thought about the times she had admired Claire from afar, the warmth of her laughter, the gentle way she always treated everyone with kindness. Emily had always felt a connection with her mom's friend, though she had never truly understood why it resonated so strongly. Arriving at Claire's door, Emily paused. There was a soft hesitation in her step, a quiet awareness that something significant was waiting on the other side. She took a deep breath, smoothing her coat, and rang the bell. The door opened almost immediately, and Claire's face appeared. Emily froze for a moment. Claire looked different. Her usual radiant energy was muted, replaced by a vulnerability that tugged at Emily's heart. There was a gentle tremor in her smile, and her eyes held a hint of worry. "Emily." "Thank you for coming," Claire said softly, stepping aside to let her in. I wasn't sure if I could ask anyone, but I knew you'd understand." Emily stepped inside, and immediately the warmth of Claire's home enveloped her. It smelled of vanilla and old books, familiar and comforting. But there was an unmistakable tension in the air, one that spoke of an unspoken need. A delicate worry that couldn't be ignored. Claire led Emily to the living room, where a small stack of letters and photographs rested on the table. Emily's curiosity deepened. She could sense that what Claire was about to share wasn't a small favor. but something much more emotional. Something that would require care, understanding, and perhaps even courage. I I need help reaching out, Claire said, her voice barely above a whisper. It's about someone from my past. Someone I lost touch with. Someone I still think about. And I don't know how to begin. Emily felt a jolt of surprise, her chest tightening with unexpected empathy. This wasn't a simple task. It was a delicate journey into the heart of someone she cared about. She realized that the day ahead would not just be about helping clear it, would also be about witnessing the depth of hope, longing, and courage that could exist quietly, almost invisibly within someone's heart. Emily sat down across from Claire, feeling a strange warmth in the room, a sense that this quiet afternoon would become something memorable, something that might teach her, in small but powerful ways, about trust, vulnerability, and the delicate beauty of reaching out when the heart dares to hope. And as the first words began to fall between them, Emily knew, without fully understanding why, that this unexpected request would change something inside her, perhaps even more than she could imagine. Emily followed Claire into the living room, her eyes falling on the small stack of letters and photographs neatly arranged on the coffee table. The sunlight streaming through the curtains caught the edges of the photos, illuminating faces frozen in time smiling. Unaware of the distance the years would bring, Claire gestured to the photos, her hands trembling slightly. These are from a long time ago," she said softly. "Back when things felt simpler, though at the time I didn't realize how much they mattered." Emily picked up the top photograph. It was of a younger Claire, radiant and carefree, standing beside a man whose smile seemed to light up the entire frame. Emily could feel the warmth radiating from the image, as if the happiness captured in that moment had left an imprint that no passing years could erase. "He was important to you," Emily said gently, her curiosity balanced by empathy. Claire nodded, her eyes misting over. "More than I knew. At the time, I was too proud, too stubborn. Or maybe just too scared. We had this connection that was effortless, natural. But I let life get in the way. I didn't fight for it, and before I realized, he was gone from my life." Emily listened, captivated. She could see in Claire's eyes the mixture of longing and regret, the quiet ache of a heart that had learned the cost of hesitation. It wasn't sadness that filled the room, it was something deeper. A lingering love that never faded, just waited patiently for a chance to be acknowledged again. "I remember the first time we met," Claire continued, her voice gentle, almost nostalgic. "We were introduced at a small gathering. He had this laugh, this way of making you feel like nothing in the world mattered except that exact moment. I remember thinking, for the first time in a long time, that maybe there was hope for happiness." Emily felt herself drawn into the story, imagining the two of them in that moment, the stolen glances, the unspoken words, the subtle sparks that neither had the courage to address. She could understand that feeling, the mix of hope and hesitation, the quiet longing that sometimes made the heart ache with desire for something just out of reach. But life doesn't always make sense, Claire said, her fingers tracing the edge of one photograph. There were misunderstandings, circumstances I didn't control. And before we could ever truly be together, he was gone. And somehow, despite everything, I never stopped thinking about him. Emily's heart tightened. She thought of her own experiences, moments she had let slip away, opportunities missed, chances for connection she had feared to pursue. There was a bittersweet familiarity in Claire's story, one that made the room feel warmer and heavier all at once. "Even when we weren't in each other's lives," Claire said, her voice soft but steady, "I felt like a part of me was waiting for the right moment, or maybe just for the courage to try again." She paused, looking at Emily with an almost childlike vulnerability. "I don't even know if he remembers me or if he ever thought of me at all. But I need to try. I need to reach out before it's too late." Emily reached out and placed a reassuring hand over Claire's. It was a small gesture, but it carried warmth, understanding, and support. "I'll help you," she said. We'll find a way to say what you need to say, maybe. Maybe this is the moment you've been waiting for. Claire's eyes glistened, a faint smile tugging at her lips. Thank you, Emily. I didn't realize how much I needed someone to listen, someone to help me find the words. I thought I could do it on my own, but she trailed off, and Emily understood. Sometimes the hardest things weren't in the doing, they were in the feeling. In the honesty, in the courage to share your heart. They sat together in silence for a moment, the past filling the room with echoes of laughter, joy, and quiet heartbreak. Emily could feel the connection between them deepening, not in a way that crossed boundaries, but in a way that honored vulnerability, empathy, and the beauty of shared human emotion. Claire picked up another photograph, this one of a picnic in a sun-dappled park. We spent an afternoon here once, she said. Emily and Claire sat across from each other, the stack of letters between them like a bridge connecting the past to the present. The room was quiet except for the soft ticking of a clock on the wall, each second punctuating the weight of the moment. Claire held a photograph in her hands, tracing the face of the man she had loved long ago. I never thought I'd have the courage to do this, she admitted, her voice barely above a whisper. And yet, here we are. Emily smiled softly. There was something in Claire's vulnerability that stirred her heart, not in a way that crossed boundaries, but in a way that resonated deeply with her own longing for connection. She could feel the intensity of Claire's emotions, the mix of hope, fear, and anticipation. And it made the room feel charged with quiet energy. Just then, a gentle knock came at the door. Both women looked up, startled. Emily frowned slightly. Who could that be? Claire rose slowly, hesitant. It must be the mail. I've been expecting something. Or maybe it's just the usual delivery, she said. Emily followed as Claire opened the door, revealing a small courier box. Claire signed quickly, her hands trembling slightly as she closed the door and placed the box on the table. She opened it carefully and gasped softly. Inside were old letters, postcards, and a small book tied with a ribbon. Emily leaned closer, curious. Where did these come from? She asked. Claire hesitated, then smiled faintly. I don't know. I didn't order them. But it feels like a sign. Maybe this is the universe giving me a little push. Emily felt a shiver run down her spine. It was a small, simple event, a delivery of forgotten memories, but in that moment, it felt like fate itself had stepped into the room. The timing was uncanny, almost magical. And Emily could see the spark of excitement in Claire's eyes. She sat down and opened the book tied with the ribbon. Inside were old letters, written in careful handwriting, addressed to Claire from the man she had loved years ago. Emily's breath caught. The handwriting was unmistakable, warm, familiar, filled with the same quiet charm that Claire had described. He's reaching out, Emily whispered, her voice filled with awe. It's real. Claire's hands shook as she read the first letter aloud. Emily, I don't know if you'll ever read this, but I've never stopped thinking about you. Every moment we shared, every smile, every conversation, it's all been with me all these years. I hope you can forgive my absence and find it in your heart to hear me now. Emily felt a lump in her throat. The words were simple, but they carried the weight of years of love unspoken, of regret, and of the hope that connection could be restored. She glanced at Claire, whose eyes shimmered with tears, and she realized how much courage it must have taken for her to even begin this journey. I can't believe this, Claire whispered. I thought it was too late, that the past had passed me by. But now it feels like there's a chance. Emily reached out, gently placing her hand over Claire's. There's always a chance when the heart is willing, she said. Sometimes life gives us little small nudges to remind us that it's never too late to reconnect. Claire smiled through her tears, a soft, radiant glow filling her face. I've waited for so long for this. And yet, I never imagined it would happen like this, quiet, unexpected, perfect in its own way. As they read the letters together, Emily noticed something subtle but powerful. The energy in the room had shifted. It wasn't just about the letters or the past or even the hope of a reply. It was about presence, being there for someone in a moment that mattered. Witnessing emotions laid bare, and sharing in the intensity of a heart's quiet revival. "Do you remember that day in the park?" Claire asked suddenly, holding up another photograph. "The one where we sat on the bench and talked for hours." I think he remembers that too." Emily nodded. She could see the emotions swirling in Claire's eyes, the same longing, the same tenderness, the same silent wish that had lived in her heart all these years. It was as if the past and present had collided in that room, creating a bridge of possibility that neither of them had expected. Claire looked at Emily, her gaze soft but intense. "I don't know what will happen next, but I feel like something is about to change. Something meaningful, something real." Emily smiled, feeling a quiet warmth settle over her heart. Sometimes the smallest events, the tiniest coincidences, can ignite something bigger than we ever imagined, she said. "And right now, it feels like we're exactly where we're supposed to be." They sat together, reading the letters, recalling memories, and sharing quiet smiles. The room was filled with a gentle light, the kind that comes when the past and present meet in a perfect, unspoken harmony. Emily realized that life had a way of surprising you when you least expected it, often through small, delicate moments that could reignite the heart in ways that were beautiful, safe, and unforgettable. And as the evening sun cast long shadows across the floor, Emily understood something profound. Sometimes love didn't need grand gestures or dramatic declarations. Sometimes it simply needed a spark, a letter, a memory, a gentle twist of fate to remind you that hearts, even when separated by time or circumstance, could find their way back together in that quiet, sunlit room, with letters in their hands and hope in their hearts. Emily and Claire felt the first real stirrings of something new, a connection reborn, a bond strengthened, and a promise of something meaningful waiting just around the corner. The afternoon light softened as it spilled into Claire's living room, casting gentle shadows across the small table where Emily and Claire sat. Between them lay a collection of letters, photographs, and scattered notes, fragments of the past waiting to be pieced together. Yet, as Emily looked at Claire, she realized that what needed mending wasn't just the distance of years. It was the quiet weight of things left unsaid. Claire picked up a letter delicately, running her fingers over the folded edges as if they held more than words, perhaps a memory, a feeling, a truth too fragile to speak aloud. "I never told him everything," Claire murmured, her voice barely above a whisper. "I left so much unsaid, things I was too afraid to admit." Emily's heart ached with understanding. She knew the feeling, the way emotions could quietly build inside a person, unseen and unacknowledged until they became almost unbearable. "Sometimes," Emily said softly, "the hardest words are the ones we carry alone. But sharing them, it's the first step toward finding peace." Claire nodded, her eyes glistening. "I thought I could move on, that life would take me in different directions and I'd forget. But every time I thought I had, I realized I hadn't. There were letters I never sent, apologies I never made, feelings I never voiced. And now it all feels urgent, like there's no more time to hesitate." Emily reached across the table, placing a comforting hand over Claire's. The gesture was simple, but in it was a silent acknowledgement of shared understanding. It was a way of saying, "I hear you. I see you. You're not alone in this." For a long moment, neither spoke. The quiet was filled with unspoken emotion, the kind that didn't require words. It was the weight of regret, the warmth of hope, and the tender ache of longing, all mingled together. Finally, Claire broke the silence. "There were moments I wanted to reach out, but I didn't. I hesitated, scared of rejection, scared of disappointment, scared of what it might do to my heart." She looked down at the table, a soft sigh escaping her lips. "And yet here I am, asking for help, asking to feel." Brave. Emily felt a lump in her throat. There was a purity to Claire's courage, a gentle bravery that radiated quietly from her. She thought of the many times she herself had held back, too cautious to risk vulnerability, too careful to let someone see her heart in its entirety. And she realized that this moment of honesty was the very thing that made hearts grow closer. "I understand," Emily said softly. "I've held back before too. Afraid to say what I felt, afraid to let someone know how much I cared. But sometimes the fear of staying silent is heavier than the fear of being heard." Claire looked up at Emily, her eyes shimmering with gratitude and a quiet vulnerability. "You always know the right thing to say," she murmured, a faint smile lifting her lips. "Even when I'm lost in my own thoughts, you help me find clarity." Emily smiled back, feeling a warmth that was both comforting and exhilarating. There was a connection here that went beyond words, a silent understanding built over shared moments, stories, and emotions. It wasn't romance in a dramatic, overt sense, it was intimacy of a deeper emotional kind. The kind that lingered in glances, gestures, and shared silences. Claire picked up another photograph, a snapshot of a sunlit park. Two younger versions of herself and the man she had loved sitting on a bench, laughing. "I think about this day often," she admitted. "The way we talked, the way we understood each other without needing words. It's memories like this that make me wonder. If I had only spoken sooner, would things have been different?" Emily took a slow breath, choosing her words carefully. "Maybe, or maybe life needed the pause, the hesitation for you to grow into the courage you have now. Sometimes the heart waits until it's ready to truly speak, to truly feel." Claire's gaze softened, a quiet reflection settling across her face. "I suppose. I just didn't want to make the wrong move, didn't want to hurt him or myself. But now, holding these letters, seeing these photographs, it feels like everything I've waited for is here. And yet, I still hesitate. EMI?" The soft light of late afternoon filtered through Claire's living room windows, bathing the room in a golden glow. The letters, photographs, and memories lay spread across the table. Silent witnesses to years of unspoken words and lingering feelings. Emily and Claire sat together, both aware that the moment they had been quietly preparing for was finally at hand. Claire took a deep breath, her fingers hovering over one of the letters she had intended to send years ago. I don't know if I can do this," she admitted, her voice trembling slightly. "What if he doesn't remember me? What if it's too late?" Emily reached across the table, her hand brushing Claire's. "It's never too late to speak your truth," she said gently. "Even if he doesn't remember everything, even if it's been years, what matters is that you're honest, that you tell him how you feel, no matter the outcome." Claire nodded slowly, drawing in a shaky breath. "You're right. I've spent years holding this inside. I thought I was protecting myself, but all I've done is keep the past unfinished. And maybe it's time to finish it." For a long moment, neither of them spoke. The room was filled with a quiet tension, a kind of suspense that had been building for months, if not years. Emily could feel it in the air, the anticipation of revelation, the stirring of hope mingled with fear. This was the turning point. The place where hesitation ended and courage began. Claire finally lifted her head, her eyes glistening. "I need to tell him everything," she said, her voice firmer now. "The things I never said, the feelings I never shared, the truth I've kept locked away." Emily smiled, a mix of pride and empathy, warming her heart. "Then start now," she encouraged softly. "Write it as you feel it. Don't worry about form or perfection. Just speak from your heart." Claire nodded and began to write, each word deliberate and filled with emotion. Emily watched as her friend poured herself into the letter, her hand shaking slightly at times, her lips pressing together in concentration. The room was quiet except for the faint scratch of pen against paper, and in that quiet, Emily felt the power of honesty. It wasn't dramatic gestures or grand declarations that mattered, it was the courage to speak the truth. After several minutes, Claire paused, setting the pen down. She looked at Emily with eyes full of vulnerability. "I don't know if I can send it," she admitted. "It's all out there. Everything I felt, everything I held back. And it's terrifying to put it in someone else's hands." Emily reached out, taking Claire's hand in both of hers. "I know it is," she said softly. But sometimes the only way to heal is to let the truth be known. He may respond, he may not, but the important part is that you've finally said it. That's the courage that matters. Claire nodded, swallowing hard. You're right. I have to try. She folded the letter carefully and tucked it into an envelope. Her hand steady now, strengthened by Emily's quiet support, as they prepared to mail the letter. Emily noticed a change in Claire's expression, a lightness. A release as though a weight had been lifted from her shoulders. It was subtle, almost imperceptible, but undeniable. The hesitation that had defined so many years was finally giving way to hope. Emily felt her own emotions stir. Watching Claire confront her past, embrace her courage, and step forward into uncertainty was inspiring in a way she hadn't anticipated. There was a beauty in vulnerability, a quiet romance in honesty, and Emily realized that this turning point wasn't just about the letters, it was about trust, connection, and the willingness to face one's heart without fear. "Thank you," Claire said suddenly, her voice soft but sincere, "for staying with me, for helping me find the words, for everything. I couldn't have done this alone." Emily squeezed her hand gently. "You didn't do it alone, but you did it," she said, "and that's what matters. You found your voice." Claire smiled, a faint blush coloring her cheeks, not from embarrassment, but from the quiet joy of accomplishment. "I feel lighter," she admitted, "like something I've carried for years is finally free." Emily nodded, feeling a deep sense of satisfaction. She understood the feeling perfectly, the relief, the warmth, the subtle thrill that comes from honesty and connection. It was a turning point not just for Claire, but for both of them. The afternoon sun dipped lower, casting long shadows across the floor, and Emily felt the moment stretch between them, quiet yet full of meaning. It wasn't dramatic in the way a movie might depict a grand romantic revelation, but it was far more powerful to hearts witnessing courage, sharing vulnerability, and quietly supporting one another as life shifted in a meaningful, hopeful way. Finally, Claire took the envelope and looked at Emily. "Tomorrow, I'll send it," she said. "And no matter what happens, I know I've done the right thing." Emily smiled, feeling a calm warmth settle in her chest. "I believe it," she said softly. "And something tells me this isn't the end. It's just the beginning of something new, something worth waiting for." As the room settled into quiet again, Emily realized that moments like these, the small, intimate, profoundly honest moments, were what life was truly made of. The turning point wasn't just in sending the letter. It was in discovering the courage to act, the strength to speak, and the quiet, enduring power of heartfelt connection. And in that shared silence, with letters between them and hope in the air, both Emily and Claire felt it, the gentle, unwavering certainty that their lives, and perhaps even their hearts, were about to change in ways they had only dared to imagine. The morning sun filtered softly through the curtains, casting a warm golden glow across Claire's living room. The envelope containing the letter rested on the small table, a quiet symbol of courage and hope. Emily sat beside Claire, the two of them sharing a moment of silence, hearts aligned in anticipation. Claire's hands rested on her lap, fingers lightly tapping as if time itself were moving too slowly. "I can't believe I'm finally doing this," she whispered. "All these years. It feels like a lifetime has passed in a single heartbeat." Emily reached over, placing a gentle hand on hers. "You've waited a long time, but sometimes the right moment takes its own time to arrive. And now it's here." Claire smiled faintly, a mix of nerves and hope dancing across her features. She stood and picked up the envelope, her steps measured and deliberate. "I'll walk to the mailbox," she said, her voice steady despite the flutter in her chest. Emily followed quietly, offering silent support. The walk outside was calm and bright, with a gentle breeze carrying the scent of early spring blooms. Each step felt significant, a reminder that small actions often hold the greatest weight. When they reached the mailbox, Claire paused, taking a deep breath. "This is it," she said softly, holding the envelope tightly. "No more hesitations. No more waiting." Emily gave her a reassuring nod. "One step, That's all it takes. With care, Claire dropped the envelope into the mailbox, watching it disappear from sight. She exhaled, a soft laugh escaping her lips. It feels lighter, she admitted. Like I've finally let go of something I've carried for too long. Emily smiled, feeling the quiet triumph of the moment. It's amazing, isn't it? How something so small, a letter, a choice, can change everything. The two of them walked back to Claire's townhouse, the air around them charged with a gentle optimism. They didn't speak much, 4 words seemed unnecessary. The energy between them was calm, reflective, yet filled with the subtle excitement of possibilities waiting to unfold. Later that afternoon, a soft chime from Claire's phone interrupted their quiet. She picked it up with tentative fingers, her eyes widening as she read the message. Emily leaned closer, heart pounding in anticipation. "It's him," Claire whispered, a mixture of disbelief and joy in her voice. "He wrote back?" Emily smiled warmly. "Then what does he say?" Claire's eyes glistened with tears as she read aloud. "Claire, I never stopped thinking about you. Life led us apart, but every memory of you stayed with me. Your letter. It means more than you can imagine. I would love to reconnect, to see where life takes us now, if you'll let me." Emily felt a warmth rise in her chest, a mixture of joy and quiet awe. "He remembers. And he feels the same," she said softly. Claire's hand trembled slightly as she clutched her phone. "I can't believe it. After all these years, it feels like a dream. And yet, it's real." Emily reached out, taking Claire's hand once more. Sometimes the heart remembers what the mind forgets. And sometimes love, true, patient, enduring love, finds its way back, no matter how long it takes. Claire smiled through tears, a sense of profound relief and happiness settling over her. "Thank you, Emily," she said, her voice thick with emotion, "for staying with me through this, for helping me find my courage. I don't think I could have done it without you." Emily shook her head gently, smiling. "You did all the hard work. I was just here to remind you that your heart already knew the way." The day moved on, the soft glow of sunlight giving way to the gentle hues of evening. Claire sat by her window, the phone in hand, reading and rereading the messages that marked a new beginning. She felt lighter than she had in years, a quiet joy filling spaces that had long held uncertainty and longing. Emily watched her quietly, sense of satisfaction and peace settling over her. Helping Claire reconnect wasn't just about sending letters or receiving replies. It was about courage, honesty, and the enduring power of emotional bonds. It was about witnessing someone step into hope after years of hesitation and feeling privileged to share.